Hello, my name is Sarah Sloan, and you are listening to The Sarah Sloan Show. I've missed you guys something fierce. I don't know why I keep on saying that. Something fierce, missing you something fierce. It's been kind of stuck in my mind. I'm not really proud of it, not happy about it, but it is what it is. Yeah, I was trying to do a podcast a few weeks ago, and this little rat was just like, "No, you're not going to do a podcast." And I'm like, "Please let me do a podcast. You have no right to stop me. And who are you?" And so I started fighting this little rat, and this little rat was pretty fierce. And this little rat really symbolizes laziness. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. That was it. Psych, there's always more. Okay. So much has happened in the world and the news and everything else. So I thought let's start off with the most important story there is. JK, it's not really the most important. I just find this to be so fascinating. And it's Austin Butler. Now, everyone knows the movie that he did, Elvis, and this guy apparently had to train for this role for like 3 years. It's insanity. Really just becoming Elvis. And, 3 years is a long time. It took me like 3 days. So I was much faster with it. But for everybody, they got to do what they got to do. So his voice changed. As he was getting ready for the role, he really, made himself into Elvis, and Elvis didn't talk the way this guy from California talked. Apparently he was meeting with like this, like, not even really like a voice coach, more like an accent coach. And the guy was saying that they would meet 3 to 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 9 months. Singing as well. He had to sing like Elvis. Like it's insane. A quote from an article I was reading about it. Learning an accent is really hard even before you get to the level of the idiolect, a term that refers to the way that an individual person speaks. Making it so it's textured and detailed and internally consistent and inconsistent in the way that real people are, and having it fully absorbed so that you can live and react truthfully through that takes a long time. It's crazy. It's crazy to try to sound like somebody else. I've been trying to sound like somebody, this one actress. I've seen her on so many different shows. If I remember, I'll put, I just don't remember her name. I'll put it up. But she has this very like low voice, and I love it. I love her low voice because high-pitched voices are the worst. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to play a clip of what he sounded like before really prepping for Elvis, and then after doing the Elvis role. So don't worry, this is pretty short, but like I said, I found it to be pretty interesting. So remember, first part of this, before, second part, after. Even you can keep on with this.
Town, and I was really late to the meeting, but they waited, and so I was kind of the only person there. So it just, all the stars felt like they were aligning. Even though I was late, and I hate being late, it was like, it felt special. It was kind of,
I didn't expect that he would feel that type of fear, and so that was really liberating for me to know that all of the pressure that I was feeling, the responsibility and the fear that I had was okay, so because he was feeling.
Do you hear it? I'm going to be honest with you. The way people were talking about this, I thought it was going to be a lot worse. I thought it was going to be like way more drastic. Like, hey, I'm a Elvis. There ain't nothing but a... I don't know why I'm doing this, by the way. I'm embarrassed of myself. And so for sure, you could see that he's taken some of this on. But he didn't sound like that different before. So I think people are being a little critical. But it's crazy. It's so crazy how this can happen. And, there's always those people out there, like, especially females, but there's becoming more and more guys that are this way. They have that, like, what's it called, like, vocal fry. And so, yeah, what do they talk like? Hey, I'm Sarah, and I just, like, talk like this. And it's awful. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants to hear it, not even me. Now, Stephen Colbert, the late night host, he was raised, I think, in Carolina, South Carolina. And he, the voices there, the accents there, they could tend to be a little bit more with the Southern drawl. And he said that he really fought against that. And believe it or not, I actually can relate. I was raised in a very small Texas town, and I started, attending school there in pre-K. So very easily could I have just picked up the accents that I was hearing around me from my peers, and just had, I'm Sarah Sloan, how are you? Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. I could talk like that easily. And I don't even remember what grade I was in, but I remember being in a class, hearing one of the very country boys talking, and he was talking about his homework and just how crazy hard it was and all that. And I remember thinking, I don't want to sound like that. And the thing is, like, I don't even know where I had that influence. I don't even know where, like, nobody was saying, you don't want to have a Southern accent because people tend to think you're a little bit dumber if you sound that way. I don't even know where that came from, but something inside of me was like, don't talk like that. Sound different than that. And so I actively fought against it. So I wouldn't say, I'm fixing to, oh my gosh, what's going on? I just wouldn't do it. And I would really go against the grain. Now, if I had a country accent, like, I'm still valuable in the eyes of God, but I'm just glad I don't. I don't want one. I love hearing them, though. I think they sound awesome. It's cute. It's like a cute accent. But yeah, it's just not for me. I never felt like I wanted that personally. And then this is Austin Butler on the Graham Norton show. And so he's being asked about, seems like you can't get rid of this voice. And then he's talking to, Austin Butler is saying, well, yeah, my agent was saying that this is something that people are really talking about. And like, am I phony? Like, what's going on? And so I'll let him finish the rest of his statement.
It made me self-conscious for a second because I thought, am I being phony? Is this not my voice? And then I thought, no, I'd have to think consciously to not talk how I am right now. But my voice sounds different when I talk to my dog or when I talk to my dad or when I'm here right now. We all have different bits of ourselves that we're releasing. But when I was really questioning it, I thought, okay, for one thing, I'm older now. Maybe sometimes I have a Southern twang, but I don't think this is Southern. If I tried to sound like Elvis, I would sound very different right now.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. You'd have to pay extra for that.
Yeah, I thought he brought up a good point. He's much older now. Your voice deepens over time. And yeah, I think people don't realize, but they pick up things in their voice as they go along. I'm going to admit something that it's like no one's even going to think anything of it, but it's a little embarrassing to me. There was somebody I met a few years ago, and he was so intelligent, and he had a little bit of a lisp. And I realized I was kind of picking up on that because I thought he sounded intelligent. And so if I had a little bit of a lisp, then I would sound intelligent. In retrospect, I'm embarrassed that I even thought that. But that's what I'm saying. You meet people along the way, you hear certain accents, and then you just kind of pick it up. But yeah, the fact that that's how he speaks and he doesn't even have to think about it, then I guess that is who you are. But that's what I'm saying. Like whenever I was in school, I could have just gone with the flow, but I didn't. I actively fought against that in my mind every day. I even had another friend, so I know I'm talking about this a lot. It's for whatever reason, I really like voices and talking about them. I have another friend, and she went to college in Europe, and specifically like the UK region, and, then she came back. And even though lived in the US her entire life, just had a couple years there, you could tell she came to that college with the idea that I want to embrace this culture. I want to sound like these people. And she sounded American, don't get me wrong, but there were little things in the way she sounded where you were like, is she living there like full time? Like what's going on? Like like cheer, like just little things that she would say that I'm like, that doesn't sound like completely American. Versus I think if I went there, I probably wouldn't want to morph into their accents, and I probably would just kind of stick to what I am. And so then I'd come back and I'd sound the same, if I said cheerio and just trying to be funny. And I also want some cereal. Give me some Cheerios, please, honey nut specifically. Yeah, so in general, I think he was doing his thing. Elvis was cool at the time. He was continuing with his accent, and basically people not in his life had to say, hey, do you realize what you sound like? And then he's like, oh, wow. Basically someone had to bring it to his attention, which can be a little embarrassing. I don't even know why, but like when you realize you're talking a certain way and someone kind of calls you out, but there's also no problem with him sounding like Elvis. So as a whole, I think this is just a very funny and kind of interesting story. But let's go on to the next one because I need this. Okay, so this is kind of a recent thing that occurred. Pornhub. It's the hub of porn. And if you kind of want to know my thoughts on porn, those are my overall thoughts on porn. I don't like it. I think it as a whole gives men unrealistic expectations of what women will be. I will never be what those women are. Look at me. Look at this. Does this look like porn material? It better not, or I'm going to be angry. But that's what men expect. And then they see this and they're like disappointed. I don't know. So I think that's what it could do as far as relationships go. But then from the Christian and spiritual perspective, you're doing harm to yourself, watching porn, visualizing people you don't know. You don't know these people that are in this industry, and just because they may be getting paid for it and just because they look like they're happy, it doesn't mean it's a good thing. There's a lot of influence going on that we don't know about in the porn industry. And also, you want to marry a porn star? Do you? I don't think you do. You know that she was with all these men doing all these things. She's on video. You wouldn't want to marry her. So then who will want to marry her? Well, the point of her was not for marriage. The point of her was just so we could have pleasure and watch her. Well, that's gross. That's slavery, honestly. That's using and abusing people. Oh, but it was just video. It's innocent. And I don't know. I don't think so. Would you do that stuff on video? Well, no, I'm not choosing to. Yeah, but you wouldn't want to do it. It's disgusting. And what place would you have to get to in your mind to where you would be willing to be on a porn video doing the things that these people are doing? I think you'd have to get to a pretty dark place to be willing to do that. And yet there's so many people doing porn now. But, sorry, that wasn't really what I was trying to say, but I'm glad I said it. Essentially, Texas put limits on Pornhub, and they said there needs to be an age verification. So, Pornhub didn't like that because they're saying age verification jacks everything up with our site. If people have to verify that they're 18 and older, then they have to give information. And why would they want to give information that they're watching Pornhub? That's embarrassing. Which, if it's really that embarrassing, should you be doing it? Should you be watching Pornhub if it's that embarrassing? Maybe that speaks for itself. And so then not only kids aren't going to get to watch the content, but also adults are going to go away from it. Sounds like a good thing to me. Would it be, and it's a whole morality test of would it be better that everybody watches porn or that nobody watches porn? What would be better for society? And I think if you're being honest within yourselves, you would know that it's best to not watch porn. I know there's some fringe arguments of like, well, then people are going to get raped because the sexual urges are really bad and men will just go out and rape women all the time. Well, man, that's pretty nasty. Like, gosh, Pornhub was what? It should be called Porn Hedge, a hedge of protection against women. Like, what? No, I don't think that's the case. It seems like porn, and I think it was, gosh, Ted Bundy? Whatever. There was a serial killer, and he basically said that what got him started on that route was porn.
My experience with, I'd say, pornography generally, but with pornography that deals on a violent level with the sexuality, is that once you become addicted to it, and I look at this as a kind of addiction, like other kinds of addiction, I would keep looking for more potent, more explicit, more graphic kinds of material. Like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement, until you reach the point where the pornography only goes so far. You reach that jumping off point where you begin to wonder if maybe actually doing it will give you that which is beyond just reading about it or looking at it.
He said, because I watched porn, it basically became more and more sinister. Nothing was satisfying. And I ended up going the route of becoming a serial killer. And I was like, oh, that's so stupid. Well, then, I've heard there's crazy searches. From what I've heard, people seem to be making jokes about stepmothers, stepfather porn, step siblings. Apparently there's stuff about dryers, people being stuck in dryers. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. And that sounds like really random, really strange. It's almost as though people get bored with just a typical man, woman, sleep together in bed, watch it. It seems like people get a little bored of that and they want some creative stuff. I am glad that, honestly, I am glad that Pornhub wanted to throw this little temper tantrum. If you're going to make us do age verification, we're just not going to have Pornhub in Texas. Good. Honestly. And let's be real. This is the only porn website? I doubt it. Let's be real. There's a lot of pornographic material and websites out there that people can go to. So I don't think that this will stop all porn. And a lot of other states have done the same thing of fighting against having kids being able to watch porn so easily. Because even with these age verification things, let's be real, a father could log in to whatever his Pornhub account, and then his child could go onto the computer later and get in. I don't know exactly how it could work, but people can get past certain rules is my point. But yeah, the way that it was like said in the news is Pornhub banned in Texas. No, that's not what happened. It was not just banned in Texas. Like, get your facts straight. Who I'm talking to in this moment, I don't even know. Okay, so the presidential election, it's basically right now just Trump and Biden, which I'm pretty cool with. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think that listen, I wish Trump had won in 2020. I've been very honest about that. I do think, though, that if Trump had won again and just gone on for his second term, I don't think he probably would have been as aware, as useful. He wouldn't have the clarity, the 2020 vision to understand what needs to be done as taking a 4-year break and watching someone else in there from the opposite party do whatever the heck they want to do. I think this is better that we had Biden in between Trump winning in 2024. Like, we all know he will. Like, come on, guys. It's pretty obvious. I don't actually know that, but that'd be cool. But I do think it's better that that Trump had this little break, because he knows things now that he didn't know before. He kind of had tunnel vision. And can you blame the guy? Like, you don't fully know what government, the beast of government is, especially at such a grand level. And so, yeah, he was obviously just beating Nikki. Nikki was wanting to stay in the race. And she's like, I'm not getting out. She doesn't even talk like that. I don't even know why I did that voice. But what Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire said is so true. The presidential campaign will only continue as long as they are being funded. The candidate is being funded. And whenever you saw the headline that the Koch brothers, who are very wealthy, although I think it's one of the brothers is dead. But anyway, whenever, Koch pulled out their support and their funding, you kind of knew, okay, I think that this race is about to end. Because she was losing state after state. She even lost South Carolina, which, is a little embarrassing. And by a little, I mean a lot. So, let me play a little clip of Nikki Haley, who, I hope to be her one day. I'm going to get my name changed, Nikki Haley. That's what I want my name to be. Let's play a little clip of her giving her farewell speech, I guess.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. I am going to talk like this. I am Nikki Haley. Everything I say is in this voice. I am very happy to get a little bit of a break from that. I'm going to be honest with you right now, because it was getting kind of annoying hearing her voice. For sure, I think it's impressive that there were quite a few candidates, and then she ended up being the last one next to Trump. So yeah, in that way, awesome. Good job, Nikki. But yeah, she's acting like, okay, you got to pull in people. You got to earn their support. Nikki, you're the one that lost. You're the one that couldn't pull people and win. If you were the nominee, I could understand you talking that way. You were literally dropping out of the race because you couldn't pull enough support in people. This kind of talk makes no sense to me. It's just really weird and confusing and bothersome, Nikki, bothersome. But I hope she learned a lot from this. And I learned a lot from watching her and seeing this race unfold. And I've said it many times. I'm going to say it again, though. I thank Vivek Ramaswamy for exposing Nikki Haley and who she is more than anybody else did. I don't think she would have won either way, but I think that this was much faster to stop her from continuing. And the longer she was going to continue in this race, the more money that was going to be wasted. Earlier in this little speech that she gave, she was talking about fiscal responsibility. Yeah, I don't think it was fiscally responsible for you to continue to waste some money that you did in this presidential campaign. So the hypocrisy is pretty intense. And I guess that's just how she likes it. Now, okay, for sure, Trump is now running against Biden, but it doesn't mean things are easy for him. He's facing several legal challenges. There's too much to even talk about. The recent one that was pretty interesting was the Georgia case, where he really what they are kind of fighting him against is he called the Secretary of State during the election and was saying, can you find 11,000 more votes? Now, he didn't have a gun to the guy's head saying, if you don't get me these 11,000 votes, I'm going to kill you. And I'm going to win this race and you're going to find the votes for me. He wasn't saying it like that. He's just like, I'm sure there's these votes out there, you need to locate these votes. And so is that criminal? Should he be facing all these charges for that? No, I think it's a pretty weak case. Now, the defense attorney, her name is of Georgia, is Fulton County, is Fannie Willis, and she really she ran on, I'm going to do things ethically. I'm not going to waste people's money. I'm not going to sleep with my employees. bada bing, bada boom. She is sleeping with one of her employees. She's paying him an exorbitant amount of money. He's basically, they had to answer questions. Are you with somebody at this time romantically? They lied about their relationship. It just mess up after mess up after mess up. They would go on these vacations together with the taxpayer dollars. Basically, she paid him a bunch of money so that he could use that money to fund their cruises and trips to all these different places. So pretty messed up that your defense attorney is doing that with taxpayer dollars. And then also, you just shouldn't be in a romantic relationship with one of your employees, especially when he's married. Like, come on. Like, it's just mess up after mess up. And she just, man, she used her fanny, but I don't think she used it for good. That's for sure. And so, yeah, this got addressed. She had to answer in a court about it. And yeah, some of the testimony is pretty entertaining to listen to. And in the end, what happened, of course, was that the judge of this, it seems like he was kind of more interested in preserving his job because people can vote for him. And what he did was he was saying that she has to either fire this guy that she was sleeping with, or that she would need to remove herself from this case. So what do you think she's going to do? Basically, her and the guy broke up. So she was pretty mad at him at this point. And so, okay, yeah, I'll fire him and I'll just continue on. So she basically really didn't have to face any consequences. But of course, I think it really exposed her, tarnished her credibility. But still, it's frustrating. It's just frustrating that she got away with it. She really did. She got away with this. And yeah, she even was like complaining about it publicly in a church. You're not supposed to do that. If there's something that's going to be talked about in court, you're not supposed to go in public and just like talk about it. Like, she just did all these things that were just like totally wrong. And she's supposed to know the rights and the wrongs as a defense attorney. So it's kind of crazy. One of my favorite lines that she said, I'm going to play a clip of, because it's just, yeah. Like I said, some of the testimony was very, very entertaining.
Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. I don't go on many dates, but when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket. Men in relationships at the end of physical intimacy, women in relationships when that tough conversation takes place. Nobody gives me anything.
Nobody gives me anything. A man is not a plan. The only man that I rely on is my daddy. It's so entertaining. Yeah, and she talked about like how, you know, if there was $100 meal, she's like, what? Like, I give him $51, he gives me $51. She's like, that's not how we do things. I always have 6 months of cash with me because that's what my daddy told me to do. I always need to have 6 months of cash. And I'm like, why would you say that? Because now I'm finna go try to rob you. I'm gonna have to do that now, because I know you have all this cash. I'm kidding, I wouldn't do that. It's too long of a drive or a walk, depending on which way I go. So it's insane. And I even heard some news commentators essentially saying about Trump that he has to win this presidential race, because if he doesn't, he's going to go to jail. Because if he wins, he can pardon himself of these crimes or whatever. It's insane. He has to win. He has to win. And Biden has done all these terrible things and nobody gives a flip. He's over there eating his ice cream and it looks so... The ice cream looks good. He doesn't. The ice cream looks good. So yeah, it really shows you where we're at in this country. Right before this, I ate some matcha ice cream. We used the Ninja Creamy. And if you never heard of it, it's basically where, you have to like use certain ingredients, but you fill up their container, you freeze it, and it could be like a pint, it doesn't matter. But it just has to be in their container. And then you freeze it for like 24 hours. And then you put it in the machine, and the machine essentially cuts it up a certain way to where it's like an ice cream texture. And so we've made all kinds of stuff. You can use, we've never done this, but you can get like canned fruit, literally fill up the canister with canned fruit, and then do like a sorbet with that. And it works apparently. Like I've seen videos of it. But typically we just do like more generic ice creams, but then you can use like stevia or ethanol sugar. So it's not like as bad for you as like the other ice creams are. And we did a lavender. And so it was like lavender syrup. And then we also did matcha powder. So yeah, matcha ice cream, like I was just saying before. If you have like pistachio, like cream or butter, you can do a pistachio ice cream. If you have different types of syrups of like, chocolate or whatever, or like vanilla or lemon, whatever you have, like flavorings, you can do a lot of stuff with it. And you just ultimately have that assurance that you are doing the healthier option while still enjoying your ice cream. So yeah, I think it's cool. Why I'm talking about this right now, I don't know. Couldn't tell you. I'm all over the place. Oh, this was an interesting article. It was basically from The Atlantic, and it was about windows, which is like, whoa, that's weird. And how rich people and poor people treat their windows. And so the gist of the article, poor people don't really utilize their windows as much as rich people do. And a lot of those reasons can be attributed to like, it's not as safe where poor people live, because if you're poor, you're living in unsafe neighborhoods and things like that. So you're going to cover up your windows. You don't want people to see what's inside your house. Versus rich people, they maybe have more money for more security, or yeah, like whatever, Ring cameras, I don't know, or yeah, they just live in protected neighborhoods, and so they can pull those curtains back, let people look in and all that. So it was kind of an interesting article in that way. Apparently, the Dutch, they always keep their windows open. It's kind of seen as like, what are you hiding if you're trying to cover up stuff? Like, it seemed really weird to do that. I even remember the Alfred Hitchcock movie, Rear Window. I think that's what it was called. And Rear Window. And it's a very good movie. And basically, it's this guy, and he lives in this apartment complex. And it's like everybody's like keeping open their windows. And so they're just kind of watching each other's lives. And then, where it gets interesting is it looks like a murder occurs. And this guy's able to see some of it. And then he starts trying to piece together the clues and all that. So it's seriously, I need to watch that movie again. It is such a good movie. James Stewart stars in it, Grace Kelly as well. It is so good. Maybe that's what got me interested in this article. Because I read the whole thing, and I don't always do that. I was even thinking, like, if you live, like, say you live in New York City, and you live super high up, and you're, like, it's just like this, this elitist place to live, like whatever, a condo, whatever it might be. And there's no other skyscrapers around. So you really are in isolation at like the top of the building. Well, then at that point, who cares about the windows? Like, unless there's like a helicopter that's going to be resting by your window the entire day. Like, you have your complete privacy, in my opinion. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't need to like totally like cover up the windows. For me, like, I live in even a little bit of a secluded place, and I usually keep my windows covered because I'm a little scared. Maybe that shows I'm a poor girl. Poor girl. That's all I'll be. No, I don't want to speak that over myself. I'm going to be rich. Maybe I need to start just like opening my windows, and that'll somehow make me rich. Who knows? I don't know. But it is nice because like you can bring in the natural light. And so that was another thing they were saying. Like if you don't cover up your windows, then your AC has to work harder on behalf of you. And AC is very expensive. And so for the poors, they're not able to afford it. But the rich people, they're like, oh yeah, we can kick up the AC easy. Let that natural light come in. And it's nice. So I thought it was a cool article. If you guys disagree, I don't know, talk to my lawyer. Please talk to my lawyer. Okay. So, oh man. This last story, it makes me sad. And a lot of people, I think they just, like, oh, who cares? And they just have such strong opinions. And I think they forget about, like, the people have hearts a little bit, you know? Sometimes I forget. Candace Owens leaving the Daily Wire. Some people say it's a firing. Some people say it was a mutual agreement. If you don't know who Candace Owens is, you're missing out. She is, I guess, like a political commentator. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to describe her. And yeah, Daily Wire, the conservative media organization. I think they brought her on like 2021. And yeah, she's done a show while having kids and all that. Like she's been great. And I have really been enjoying her podcast for the last like year. It's been hard for me to, you know, even want to miss episodes because it's like just that good. And she always has a really like interesting take on different stories. And she's not afraid to like really fight against a narrative. Like she had a documentary about Black Lives Matter, and then like she really called them to account and exposed them, because really what they were doing was Black Lives Matter. They were just giving like money to the leaders of the organization and to like trans organizations. Like you think Black Lives Matter, like what is the point of Black Lives Matter? What are they supposed to do? Well, you would think help Black communities. That's what you would think. And so if you're giving your money, you have a good heart in that. And then you realize that money was just going to building mansions for the leaders and trans organizations, LGBTQ organizations. How's that helping the Black cause? I don't know. So yeah, she totally exposed them. And then, oh man, recently, like we literally just finished it. Netflix had, it was called Making a Murderer, was a documentary. She had a counter documentary called Convicting a Murderer. It was about the same case. It was wild. It was absolutely wild. It was about Stephen Avery, and you may have heard of him, you may have not. I have not heard of him before I watched all this stuff. And he, you know, he was in prison for 18 years for something he didn't do. And then he's out for a little bit, and then a murder occurs, and it's attributed to him. And he's claiming, I didn't do it. They're doing it again. They're going to put me in jail again. What the heck? They love to do this. The cops are so sinister and evil. And you watch a Netflix documentary and you're like, you take away from it, wow, what sickos, what is our justice system? That is disgusting what they're doing to Stephen Avery. He should not spend another second in jail. Boom, you watch Convicting a Murderer, Candace Owens, you realize that the Netflix documentary, they cut out statements, they literally piece together testimony, like take out a word, add in a word here. Like it was insane. They brought up all these facts that you just didn't know. And so you feel kind of stupid because you're like really angry after watching the Netflix documentary. And then you watch hers and you're like, oh my gosh, I was completely wrong about all of this. But also you're not stupid because like who in their free time is going to start researching what they watch on a documentary? I'm not going to do that. If I'm honest, I don't have the time for that. I don't care about that. And so then for me, what it left me away with, what the message I took away from it was, wow, documentaries, I don't think they're really that trustworthy. And then also, but let's be real, I'm probably still going to watch them. I know this bad. It's like, Sarah, you literally just said they're the worst, but now you're going to still watch them. I am. Am I proud of all the decisions I make? No, I'm not proud of all the decisions I make. But I like watching them and I need to continue to watch them. But then you realize, dang, Candace is awesome. She brings the truth to light. It is wonderful. And so, but yeah, what happened? Why is she being ousted when she's done a great show that's very popular? I think she's got one of the largest media followings on the team of the Daily Wire. It's insane. How many Twitter followers she has, how many Instagram followers she has. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It started off with Kanye. And Kanye had some comments against Jews. I think he was personally hurt by some of them, and he just made some statements about all of them. And for sure, he shouldn't have done that. Like, that was a mistake. And Candace, being loyal, she's friends with Kanye. People are kind of like, aren't you going to speak out against Kanye? And she's like, no, he's my friend. And so then it looks like, oh, well, you agree with him then. And she's like, well, I'm not saying I agree with him. I can take grams of truth from his experience, but that doesn't mean I agree with him. But this is angering Ben Shapiro because they're on Daily Wire together. Ben Shapiro is speaking out against what Kanye West is saying, and Candace is like, nope, he's my friend. I'm going to stay loyal to him. So boom, already a stark disagreement. Now, in the past, you would always hear Jeremy Boring, the CEO of Daily Wire, and he would talk about how it's super awesome. You can watch this guy's show, you can watch this show, and they're saying completely different things, and we allow it on this platform because we're not like the media where we try to police people's language. And so they're already a platform of like free speech. And then just as things continue to occur October 7th, where the Hamas group attacked Israel and just how terrible that was. And so Candace is coming out more, what she's saying is an even-keeled perspective. And so she's saying, I think it's all, like, I think genocide of any kind is evil. Because I think what was happening was it was starting to look like, is the Israeli army trying to eradicate, Palestinians as a whole, because they are so evil for what they did on October 7th, which no one's going to deny that was very evil. But then it's like, okay, but is genocide okay? It doesn't matter who it is. Is it okay? Is that what we're saying? So she's saying, no, that's evil. And then she's also saying, well, it is a tragedy when any innocent child dies in war. And so she's saying that. And then people were like, well, no, you're trying to equate Hamas and Israel and all that. Like, what you're saying is wrong. And so I think that was even angering Ben Shapiro more. And then he even had public statements that were overheard, taped, whatever, where he was saying that Candace Owens has a faux sophistication on the issue. What she's saying is reprehensible, all that kind of stuff. And, she's hearing this from a video, and just as it stands, if you have a conflict with somebody, typically it's better to speak to them one-on-one rather than just making a public statement to people that could be leaked to the press. Like, that's not very fun to be able to watch.
Behavior during this has been disgraceful. Yeah. Without a doubt. I can't close that. Yeah, and she still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
If you want her to change, you doing it that way, just speaking about her to a crowd behind her back to then have it leaked to her, probably isn't the best way to change her mind. Like, my question is, like, Ben Shapiro, did you want to change her mind, or did you just want to humiliate her, speak ill of her? The incident made me think a little bit less of Ben Shapiro, I'm going to be honest with you. But that's the thing, like, everybody has their moments of failing, and for me to act like, oh, I've never done anything like that, that would be really immature, that'd be really stupid. So I would never act like, I say junk all the time. And so, but of course it's a little easier to watch other people do and be able to say, that's wrong, that's right. It's a lot harder whenever you're looking at yourself to say that's wrong, that's right. So, but she didn't take the bait. She didn't speak ill of him. And she was even given chances to on interviews. She was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. She's like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. I'm not going to, copy his behavior. And so, yeah, you already knew he was angry. He didn't have the power to fire her, but he is one of the top people at the company, Daily Wire. And so you kind of just figured that her time was going to be coming to a close. But then she's having a baby. She's on a maternity leave. And then she comes back. And so you're like, okay, well, maybe this will kind of go away. The issues will go away. But Candace is Candace. And so she's continuing to just speak her mind. This Rabbi Shuli and his daughter, they've been attacking her for 2 years. They're saying, we're going to bankrupt you. Apparently they sell sex toys and stuff like that. And she's just like, you guys are freaks and all that. And then they start saying things like, you're anti-Semitic, when in reality, she's attacking a person. She's not attacking their religion. And so I think it's, she brought up so many good points of like, is this, like, what's really going on? Like, why does everybody just throw the anti-Semitic label the second you say anything? Like, it's getting out of hand. It's like, the same way that people are like, oh, you're racist. Like, you can literally say anything. Like, oh, well, there's a black person over there. Like, innocent as day. Oh, that was racist. How was that racist? I just said there was a black person over there. Like, that's not racist. Racism is seeing another race as inferior to your own. For you to say, I saw a black person over there. Like, people will actually say you're racist for saying that. It's so nuts. But she's kind of bringing that foregone conclusion that people are calling her anti-Semitic when she is not. And she's having to explain herself a lot. And then she debates this rabbi. And oh my gosh, it was so tense and difficult to watch because this rabbi wrote a terrible article about her. And she's like asking him about it. And the reality is, like, I'm sorry, she won the argument. She totally won it. He was defensive. She would say, okay, you said this about me. Let me play the clip of what you're claiming I said. They play it. She didn't say it. And he's like, yeah, you said it. It was just like nuts. And it was like an hour and a half. It was really difficult to watch. And I don't know exactly if she knew that her last show would be her last show because I'm going to play it. But yeah, the way she says it, she's like, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like, I don't think she knew. So I'm going to play it real quick.
But I also want to say this because it's so important. I am team God. Okay? I'm team God. I do not fear the media. I do not fear journalists. I do not fear AIPAC. I don't fear Big Pharma. What I actually fear is God. I think that one day we are all going to have to account for the things that we have done and the things that we have said. And I want to make sure that I am not a person that is parroting lies. The fear of losing your job, encouraging some people to spit out lies, I don't think that works in the end, right? I think you got to check your priorities. And so with that said, I want to thank everybody who has been on this journey with me, people that have supported me. I especially want to thank all of the Jewish people that have been in the comments saying how outraged they are. And I know that it is especially difficult for you guys right now because you are being smeared, I mean, I'm not going to go away. I'm going to use my God-given voice to talk about the things that are important for me. And I'm just asking to be left alone, or at least just report the truth. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today. But don't worry, because we will see you tomorrow for a brand new episode.
That's typically how she ended her shows. We'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode. So I don't know. I don't know if she knew or not, but that was her last episode. And yeah, I'm obviously so sad about it. I loved her show so much. And it's not like she's dead. It's not like she's gone. You know what I mean? But it's just frustrating that a group that I love so much, the Daily Wire, that they couldn't get past this, I guess. And Andrew Klavan on his show, he's another Daily Wire commentator. He was basically saying that she was anti-Semitic, that it's wrong for her to be paid to say anti-Semitic things, that is just like evil. Apparently saying Christ is king is anti-Semitic. I didn't know that. I think it's kind of crazy because she said that Christ is king. I say it, Christ is king.
Christ is the king, and one day every knee will bow and recognize it because he's not just my king, he's king of the universe. But when you use that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews, you are quoting scripture like Satan does in the Bible. You are quoting scripture to your purposes, and that to me is specifically wicked.
The reality is, Christians and Jews do have differences of beliefs. I don't know why that's shocking to say. And, you know, and he was even, Andrew Clavin was saying, I know that's not like, you guys want Jordan Peterson, you want Ben Shapiro to follow Christ just because, you know, that would be something that's important for you.
And, you know, I understand this. All of you who love Ben, and I love Ben, and Jordan Peterson, you all want to see them find Jesus because you know what joy and freedom that gives you, and you certainly feel that it alters your relationship with God. But when I think about this, to be honest with you, you know, and I know some people will disagree with this, but life is not a game show where you guess the name of God and you get to go to heaven. Honk, you know, yes, the name is Jesus. I look at Ben's life and I think if Ben were to embrace Jesus Christ, it would cause devastation to his family, to the people who love him, to the people who listen to him, to his position in the world. I just have this feeling that God has put this guy where he wants him to do what he wants him to do. And as you know, I feel that, you know, the Jews were not abandoned by God.
Yeah, it's literally heaven or hell. Like, in my perspective as a Christian, you may disagree. I understand. It's heaven or hell. Ben Shapiro is either going to heaven or he's going to hell. So yeah, it's kind of important, believe it or not. So it's not just something that makes me feel good. No, it's very dire. To just minimize it like that, I just kind of thought it was crazy. Some of the stuff he was saying about Candace. I thought it was a little hostile and overall a little too negative. She is a wonderful woman. I'm not saying she's perfect, and I don't agree with everything she says. Even recently, to be honest with you, I feel like she's been kind of like going a little too hard at Megyn Kelly, just in some of her commentary, and where it's just like, okay, that was maybe a little unnecessary for you to kind of take that jab at Megyn Kelly. Again, you've already done it a few times. So yeah, I'm not going to just sit here and say she's perfect, but I don't think it's wrong what she said or what she did, especially when you espouse the importance of free speech. And also, okay, so being paid to say things you disagree with. Basically, Andrew Clavin said that what she said was the equivalent to being in support of abortion. And obviously, I'm very much against abortion. I don't think that's fair at all. I really don't. I don't think that's fair. And then he even said, Andrew Clavin said things like, you know, I don't know anything about this Rabbi Shuli. I don't know, you know, but she said, and I'm like, okay, so you know exactly what she said against Rabbi Shuli, but you looked into nothing about Rabbi Shuli yourself. I noticed that little trend. People don't want to actually look into these things. They just want to give their commentary. And it always happens to be negative against Candace Owens. But no, I truly believe that God is using her to speak truth. I even watched her like hour-long interview with The Breakfast Club, which if you don't know what that show is, it's very liberal. It's very to the left. It's each morning it occurs. They talk news, you know, entertainment news, political, like all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, very informative, but it's tailored with their lens. Just as I prefer watching Candace, other people on the opposite side of the political aisle prefer to watch them. And for sure, they have every right. So you wouldn't typically see Candace and them speaking and getting along. And it was amazing how well she did with them and how well they did with her. We actually, the left and the right, we actually do have more in common than we think. And instead of trying to divide ourselves, we can actually look for those commonalities and try to fix the issues that we agree on. Instead of just fighting, conflict, just constantly. So I was super impressed with how she did on that. And yeah, I quite frankly don't really care that that people have this disagreement with her, that they think she's some force of evil, that they think she's anti-Semitic. I don't see it. I've really paid attention to what she's doing, what she's been saying. I've watched all of it. I'm sorry, I don't think that she's anti-Semitic at all. And also, why are we acting like the Israeli government, the Jewish people in general, can do absolutely no wrong? And if you say one thing against them, that doesn't make you an anti-Semite. It's just so baffling to me. I pray blessing on the Israeli people as a Christian. I pray blessing on the country, on the territory, on everything. And so if I can see that there's a flaw or something that they're doing wrong, for me to say it, now I'm anti-Semitic? Okay, awesome. It's so nuts. And so I feel for her. I do. There's a little small part of me that does wonder if she really did kind of want to be independent, because I don't know if she's going to be working for anybody quite yet, because she was talking about the importance of being with her kids. And even though she does just a 30-minute show for the Daily Wire, she misses her kids while she's preparing for it and everything else. And I'm like, okay, does she want kind of an out? Does she want to just spend more time with her family? But I don't know. That is just pure speculation. I hope it doesn't happen again where there's this huge kind of a divide with the Daily Wire. Maybe they just need to be better on really making sure there's agreement all around, or being able to solve these kind of conflicts. Because whenever it's these media jobs, it just gets really ugly. And I don't like ugly. I don't like it at all. Okay, so let's see. Okay, let's go to the verse. So Luke, obviously, it's amazing. You can read the Bible again and again and again, and it's like it hits you different every time. It's so weird, and I love it. But Luke is really, it's been good. It's always been good. You know what I mean? It's so detailed. It really gives in the insights to stories that the other Gospels don't, in my opinion, in my perspective. So Luke 6, verse 6. This is going to be a little bit of reading, so just bear with me. It'll be okay. Now it happened on another Sabbath also that he entered the synagogue and taught, and a man was there whose right hand was withered. So the scribes and Pharisees watched him closely, whether he would heal on the Sabbath, that they might find an accusation against him. But he knew their thoughts, and said to the man who had the withered hand, "Arise and stand here." And he arose and stood. Then Jesus said to them, "I will ask you one thing. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to destroy?" And when he had looked around at them all, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." And he did so. And his hand was restored, as whole as the other. But they were filled with rage and discussed with one another what they might do to Jesus. Yeah, do we even believe that God can do something like that today? That he could just physically heal. A lot of people were like, well, yeah, he does it through doctors. Yeah, for sure. But he could do it today. And, something that can cause a rift between Christians is the difference on if they believe healings are for today or if that was just for biblical time. And then, of course, some people have testimonies of healings. If you want to look up somebody who is kind of known for that, Dr. Randy Clark, he has a crazy healing ministry called Global Awakening. But of course, when you talk about these things and you talk about people's testimonies of healings, there are people, and I'm only talking Christians, unbelievers, you're never going to expect them to believe because they're unbelievers. It's all in the name. But believers are like, oh, they're faking it. And for sure, people have faked stuff before. So I'm not going to try to act like that's never happened. But basically, the only way that they will believe is if somehow a miracle occurred to them. Otherwise, they're not going to believe. So I guess they'd have to see something like this occur, a hand being healed. I don't know. But I sure am glad that Jesus was able to look past a law, a regulation. And yeah, it came from God, but he was willing to look past it and say, yeah, no, let's heal. For sure, the Sabbath is important, but let's heal because that's what matters in this moment. Boundaries, laws, they're important, but sometimes some things override that. And yeah, Jesus was so good to look past it. And I will say this. I do believe healings are for today. I do believe that they are possible. Doubt is a great way to make sure that it will never occur. I remember one time I was in church, even, and this is kind of different than doubt. It was more just like anger about healing. I was in church, and this guy, he had received prayer, and his knee had been really bad, and he was walking around, and it was healed. He felt fine, and it was a miracle. He had had this pain for so long, and so he essentially walked back to his row in the church, and he was screaming. And it was a happy scream, but it was very loud and very jarring. He was just like, yeah, thank you, my knee is healed, like thanking God. But for sure, it was a little like, it was jarring. It was a jarring scream. And so I had a friend, this was whenever I was in college. So yeah, I had a friend that was like near that row, and she had been going to that church just a couple of times, and then she stopped going. And then I asked her a few weeks later, I was like, oh, are you still going to the church? And she's like, no. And I was like, oh, why? What happened? And she basically told me that she was pretty close to the guy in that row whenever he was going back and he was screaming. And she said it just really freaked her out, the way he was screaming, and she just didn't like that. But yeah, I went to University of Oklahoma, so I went to a couple football games, and she didn't miss a football game. And I went, like I said, I went to like two. The screaming that occurred there was just as loud, if not louder. And that wasn't about a knee being healed. That was just, oh, a good pass, or, oh, the cheerleaders were dancing pretty cool, or someone got a touchdown. And yet she went to every single game. And if we're talking even like a time commitment, church is usually like an hour and a half if it goes long. These games would be 4 to 5 hours. But it shows you, do people have the appetite for healing today? Do they even want it to occur? Do they even want healing to occur for themselves? Are they even willing to ask for prayer for it? I don't know. I think each person is going to have different answers to those questions, but that stuck with me. And I'm grateful that I got to see that, because, you know, I think you can change over time and you can get soft on any issue. And I don't ever want to get soft on the possibility of healings. Selfishly, I want healings for myself. Selfishly, I want healings for my family. I want healings for my community. And so I don't ever want to be upset at someone's reaction for healing. But I am going to be upset at somebody's reaction for football, because football is stupid. Dang. I said a lot of controversial things on the show. Nothing topped that one just then. But yeah, Jesus is more than happy to heal you. So if you have some type of infirmity, ask him. And don't stop. If he doesn't do it that same day, keep on asking. And ask somebody else to pray for you too. He could do anything. It's so cool. So, I love Jesus. And I love you guys. And I really appreciate you guys listening to the show today. I've missed you a lot. And I think you know that, because you can feel it in the connection I have to you guys. From the camera to me to back to the camera. But enjoy your day and be safe. If there's anyone that wants to hurt you, just don't let them. It's not that hard. All right, goodbye.